The resort manager stopped me at the garden gate, then whispered, "Mason is framing this resort." Part 1. The midday heat pressed down like a wet wool blanket. Cicadas screamed from the banyan trees above the stone path, and the air smelled of jasmine, damp soil, and rain that had not yet broken. Gravel shifted beneath my Oxford shoes as I walked through the west entrance of the Botanical Garden Resort with a leather folio under one arm and a board-issued access badge clipped inside my jacket. The west wing trim was peeling. The courtyard fountain stuttered every fourth pulse. The left wheel on the first brass luggage cart dragged half an inch behind the others. Most guests would not notice those things. I did. That was why corporate sent me. The Botanical Garden Resort had been losing ground for 3 months. Online sentiment had collapsed, food safety complaints had appeared, and anonymous reviews claimed mold in cleared rooms. The board wanted to know if Claire Morgan had lost control. I had 14 minutes before my scheduled meeting with her. Then I heard voices through the hibiscus hedge. Low, sharp, not guest noise. I stepped off the gravel path and stood near the lattice fence surrounding the employee garden gate. Through the narrow gaps, I saw Mason Bennett. That explained a great deal. Mason was a developer from a rival hospitality group, the kind of man who bought distressed properties after somebody else had damaged them. He wore pale linen, carried a silver tablet, and smiled as if every conversation had already been priced. Across from him stood Claire Morgan, her supplier folder in one hand and the garden gate at her back, blocking his access to the staff path. "You are trespassing, Mason." "I'm visiting a property that will soon be available," he said. "That is called market research. The health reports are fake. The guest reviews are coordinated. The delivery manifests were altered after they left our vendor portal." Mason tilted his head. "That sounds emotional." Claire did not move. "Your assistant was seen near the loading dock yesterday," she said. "The west camera caught her reflection in the service door glass. I have the footage." Mason's smile thinned. "Footage gets misread. Files get misplaced. Staff get nervous when board members start asking questions." He tapped the tablet against his palm. "The gala is in 48 hours. If the board sees one more incident before then, they will sell before the official vote, and I will make an offer they can accept with relief." There it was. Why Claire was trapped. The gala had to prove the resort was stable. What Mason wanted, a panic sale before Claire could present evidence. Why I was involved. The board had sent me to determine whether the asset was failing, and Mason was manufacturing the failure. Claire stepped closer to the gate, not to Mason, to the camera mounted above it. "Smart. You are not buying this resort," she said. Mason laughed once. "You think Parker will protect you? He protects numbers. Once he sees the revenue curve, he will write the report that ends you." I stepped out from behind the lattice. Both of them turned. Mason recognized me first. His face tightened around the name before he said it. "Parker." I ignored him for 3 seconds and looked at Claire. "Ms. Morgan," I said, "we have a scheduled meeting." Her eyes moved to the folio under my arm, then to the board credential clipped inside my jacket. She understood quickly. "My apologies. Mr. Parker," she said, "I was handling an unauthorized visitor." Mason recovered enough to smile. "Nathan Parker, corporate's favorite blade." "I prefer clean instruments," I said. "This is between me and Ms. Morgan." "No," I said. "You are on property under active board review. Any acquisition communication goes through corporate legal. Any further unauthorized access goes through our security contractor and local authorities. You have no idea what she is hiding." "I know what you just said near a security camera." His eyes cut upward. Claire's fingers tightened once around the supplier folder. Good. She had been right about the camera. Mason gave a stiff smile. "You will see the numbers soon enough." "I already have." "Then you know she is finished." "No," I said. "I know the numbers are damaged. I have not determined by whom." The silence held for one heavy second. Mason turned and walked toward the guest parking lot. I watched until his car rolled past the palms and disappeared beyond the front drive. Only then did Claire speak. "Mason is framing this resort," she whispered. "Use the operations office before he sees us. The security feeds prove he was here." No private invitation. No blurred line. Only evidence. I nodded once. Lead the way. We entered through the staff corridor, where the air conditioning hit like a wall after the garden heat. The smell shifted from jasmine and wet soil to starched linen, floor polish, and the faint metallic hum of service elevators. Claire did not take me to a suite. She took me to the manager's operations office. Ethan Brooks, the head chef, arrived 2 minutes later with printed temperature logs and the expression of a man who did not enjoy corporate visitors. Claire left the door open until he stepped inside. "Ethan stays as witness," she said. "Good," I said. Ethan looked between us. "That is the first word I've liked from corporate." I placed my folio on the conference table. "Let's see the evidence." Claire connected her laptop to the wall display and brought up a timeline. Fake health complaints, 1-star reviews, delivery manifest discrepancies, and negative blog posts, each tied to a date and likely board impact. The reviews began 2 days after Mason's first offer was rejected. Claire said, "The health complaint appeared after we refused a vendor change recommended by his assistant, Amelia Bennett. The latest review wave references room numbers that were unoccupied." Ethan placed his logs beside my folio. "Kitchen temperatures have been clean," he said. "Independent readings, not just the digital system. I started manual backups after the first fake food poisoning claim." I opened the logs. Every page had initials, every reading had a time. Ethan had not trusted the system blindly. Claire had trained her people well. "This is strong," I said, "but not enough for the board." Claire's jaw tightened. "Because Mason can call it internal damage control." "Yes, we need a direct financial or technical link from Mason's side to the attacks." "I have an IP trace," she said. She brought up a network report. The fake reviews had been routed through proxy accounts, but one recovery log pointed to a marketing shell company with ties to Mason's hospitality group. "Someone got careless," I said. "Careless enough?" Claire asked. "Not yet." I opened the board's liquidation worksheet, then closed it without saving. In a new forensic case file, I typed Bennett Sabotage evidence chain across the top. Claire saw the title, and her shoulders lowered by a fraction. I looked up. "You run the resort, keep the gala alive, keep staff calm. Bring me anything strange, no matter how small. I'll trace the shell company, the review accounts, and any payment trail tied to Mason." Claire studied me as if waiting for the hidden cost. "There is no favor here," I said. "If this resort is failing because of mismanagement, I report that. If it is being sabotaged, I report that. My job is asset integrity." "And the staff?" she asked. I glanced at Ethan's temperature logs, his handwritten initials, the care in every entry. If Mason is using staff livelihoods as leverage, then protecting the asset includes protecting them. Ethan's expression shifted. Not trust, not yet, but less hostility. Claire placed a second folder in front of me. Then we start with Amelia Bennett. Inside were 3 still images from the loading dock camera. The angle was imperfect. The light was bad. A woman in a pale jacket stood near the vendor gate, half turned away. The timestamp was Wednesday, 6:12 p.m. Ethan leaned in. That was right before the supplier manifest changed. Claire pointed at the image. Amelia Bennett, Mason's assistant. I looked at the photo, then at Claire. Now we have a clue. Part 2. For the next 12 hours, the operations office became a war room. Claire managed the resort in motion. Floral changes, VIP arrivals, guest complaints, staff schedules. Ethan ran the kitchen like a ship engine while I dug into Mason's digital mess. The review accounts were clustered, layered through vendors, and sloppy beneath the polish. At 8:40 p.m., Claire placed black coffee beside my keyboard. "You've been staring at that payment ledger for 2 hours," she said. "If you miss the obvious because you refuse caffeine, Ethan will never let either of us hear the end of it." From the doorway, Ethan called, "Correct." I wrapped one hand around the mug. The ceramic was warm against my palm, and the coffee smelled bitter enough to be useful. "You profile auditors by beverage?" I asked. "I profile everyone," Claire said. "It saves time." That sounds like something a manager says before frightening her staff. "My staff bring me problems before they become disasters." That is not fear. That is trust. The room quieted for one beat. Claire looked down at the supplier folder, then back at the monitor. Then helped me make the board see what my staff already knows. I took a sip of coffee and turned back to the ledger. Find me a payment approval number from Mason's side. She sat across from me and opened another file. At 11:17 p.m., Claire found the first payment flaw. Here, she said. She turned her laptop toward me. A vendor invoice for digital sentiment recovery had been paid by a hospitality consulting shell. The invoice number matched the reputation management vendor that had pushed the fake reviews. But the internal billing code had one extra letter at the end. Why does that matter? Ethan asked from the doorway. Claire tapped the code. Because Mason's group uses 5-letter region tags. This one has a 6th character. That usually means campaign extension. Someone copied a real billing format but forgot to remove the tracking suffix. I looked closer. She was right. The extra letter tied the review cluster to a paid campaign instead of an organic customer complaint. Good, I said. Ethan folded his arms. That sounded painful for you. What? Admitting the manager is useful. Claire almost smiled. I ignored both of them and saved the invoice to the forensic chain. The first new attack landed the next morning. A blog post claimed the resort's west wing had structural cracks and unsafe balconies. It included photos of peeling trim, zoomed tight enough to make cosmetic damage look like rot. The post started spreading before breakfast. Mason wanted guests nervous before the gala. Claire walked into the operations office with the article already printed and marked in red. I have the independent structural inspection from 11 days ago, she said. Post it, I said. Already sent to communications. I also have maintenance repainting the trim before noon, not because the structure is unsafe, but because optics matter. Ethan entered behind her with a tray of breakfast sandwiches and coffee. No one fights corporate sabotage on an empty stomach, he said. I looked at the tray. Claire looked at him. Ethan shrugged. I'm protecting the asset. That was the first time all three of us smiled in the same room. By noon, the resort had posted the inspection summary, the board had been notified, and the blog post had been flagged for misleading imagery. The threat had not disappeared, but its teeth were shorter. At 2:30, lead board member Harper Sloan asked for my preliminary report. I sent the Garden Gate footage to legal and told her the property was under coordinated external pressure. What do you need? She asked. Time until after the gala. No sale discussion before my forensic addendum. She gave me until the following morning. When Ethan muttered that the gala needed to go perfectly, Claire answered, Perfect is fragile. Tonight needs to stay functional when something breaks. Part 3. The refrigeration alarm went off at 5:30 p.m. Ethan's voice came through Claire's radio, sharp and controlled. Main walk-in is warming. Digital display says defrost cycle. Manual thermometer says 41 and rising. Claire was already moving. I followed. The kitchen hit us with heat, noise, and urgency. Prep cooks moved trays to backup coolers. The alarm pulsed red above the stainless steel walk-in. $50,000 in seafood, produce, and gala inventory sat behind that door. If they lost the inventory, the gala failed. If the gala failed, Mason had his panic sale. Ethan stood at the control panel with a maintenance binder open. Vendor support is on the line. They say the unit was forced into defrost mode. Accident? Claire asked. Ethan looked at me. Not unless accidents log in with external service credentials. I stepped to the panel but did not touch it. Vendor support on speaker, I said. Ethan handed me the phone. The technician confirmed the system could be placed into emergency compressor override if the property manager authorized it and documented the reset. Claire signed the temporary override approval. Ethan read the serial number aloud. I connected my laptop through the diagnostic cable while the vendor walked us through a reset of the corrupted sensor command. No hero hacking. No magic. Process. The compressor groaned to life. Cold air blasted through the vent. The display dropped from 42 to 41, then 40, then 39. The alarm stopped. For 1 second, the kitchen held its breath. Then Ethan clapped once, back to work, Move the shellfish first. Temperature logs every 5 minutes until I tell you otherwise. The kitchen snapped into motion. Claire looked at the control panel. Who triggered it? I pulled the access log, external maintenance credential, used on site through the loading dock port. Ethan's face hardened. Same dock where Amelia was seen. I saved the log. Claire looked at me. Now we have the second clue. Yes, I said, and Mason just touched the system physically. The kitchen recovered, but recovery had a cost. 2 junior cooks had to sit down for orange juice and sandwiches. Claire walked the line herself, thanking people by name and turning panic back into tasks. I watched from the stainless steel counter and realized the board had been reviewing the wrong evidence. They were staring at occupancy curves, while Claire held together the human system that made the curves possible. That night, black coffee returned to the operations office. This time, Claire placed 1 mug in front of me and kept 1 for herself. Ethan brought a third and claimed he had earned hazard pay in caffeine. The room smelled of coffee, printer toner, and the faint ozone scent from the security monitors. Rain tapped the window. On the main display, the loading dock footage played frame by frame. A pale jacket, a service cap. Amelia Bennett's profile reflected in the stainless steel door. Claire froze the image and marked it. She was at the dock before the manifest change, she said, and again before the refrigeration override. Still not enough for Mason, I said, but enough for Amelia. Ethan leaned back. Assistants do not sabotage resorts for personal enrichment unless someone bigger pays the bill. Exactly. I said, we needed the money. At 1 a.m., Claire's finance manager, Priya, joined a secure call and found the first money trail. 3 payments to a subcontractor connected to the review farm, plus 1 expense card reimbursement from Mason's office that matched a rental vehicle used near our loading dock. She exported everything read-only and sent it through counsel. By 2:15 a.m., Claire's attorney had enough to issue preservation letters. At 3 a.m., the rain finally broke over the gardens, and the repaired fountain outside the operations window pulsed steady under the downpour. I thought he had already won, Claire said. He needed you to think that before tomorrow, I said. And now? Now he needs something bigger. The answer sat between us. The gala. The gala began the next evening under blue-green lights and the polished noise of donors, board members, and servers moving through the ballroom. Ethan's kitchen ran like a clock after the refrigeration scare. Claire stood at the center of it all, not hiding and not defending, simply managing each small problem before the board could see the seam. I stood near the rear service entrance with a tablet in one hand, watching the network traffic. At 9:38 p.m., Mason arrived. He was not on the guest list. He came anyway, wearing a dark suit and the relaxed expression of a man who expected other people to mistake confidence for authority. Security stopped him at the ballroom entrance. I joined them before the conversation became a scene. Mason, I said, you are barred from non-public areas pending legal review. This is a donor event. He said, several of those donors are my friends. Then they can enjoy the evening without you. His gaze moved past me toward Claire, who was speaking to Harper near the orchid wall. You really think she survives tomorrow? He asked. I think you should leave before another camera records you threatening this property. The corner of his mouth lifted. You see cameras, I see value falling by the hour. Then your eyesight is selective. He stepped back, still smiling. Enjoy the gala, Parker. He left too easily. That worried me more than if he had shouted. 28 minutes later, the alert hit. Outbound data spike. Employee HR archive. Someone was attempting to extract staff files, home addresses, payroll details, emergency contacts. Mason had moved from reputation damage to real harm. I called IT before touching the network. Outbound spike from HR archive, I said. Need immediate isolation authority. The IT director answered from the server closet below the ballroom. Confirmed, traffic volume abnormal. Segment the HR archive, cut external outbound from that server only. Do not drop room keys, POS, or guest systems. On it. I moved through the service corridor at a near run. The ballroom music continued behind the walls. Guests laughed, glasses clicked. The resort's public face stayed flawless while the private attack tried to bleed staff data into the dark. Inside the operations office, I watched the progress bar climb. 30%. 38. 42! Then the connection froze. IT had isolated the server. The outbound packet died inside the firewall. I saved the MAC address of the initiating device before the system fully locked. Registered device, Amelia Bennett corporate laptop. There was the direct link. The office door opened. Claire stepped in, still wearing her gala blazer, with her radio in one hand. The POS stayed up. Guest Wi-Fi stayed up. What happened? I turned the monitor toward her. Amelia tried to extract employee HR files. The color left her face, but she did not fall apart. She walked to the desk, placed both hands flat beside the keyboard, and read the screen. My staff, she said. We stopped the transfer. IT isolated the archive. No confirmed exfiltration beyond the blocked packets. I captured the initiating device. Her fingers pressed once against the desk. Then she picked up the radio. Ethan, keep the gala moving. No staff discussion yet. I want the team calm until we know the scope. Ethan answered immediately. Understood. Claire looked at me. We have Mason now? We have Amelia. To get Mason, we need payment authorization or communication tying her action to his office. My finance team can pull vendor irregularities from the procurement file. Do it through counsel. Already calling. That was why the resort survived. Claire did not ask to be saved. She made the next call. Part 4. The board meeting took place at 9 the next morning. The executive conference room overlooked the ocean and the botanical gardens, both washed clean by overnight rain. Mason Bennett sat across from Claire with the smooth confidence of a man who believed chaos had already done his work for him. The board looked tired. Harper opened the meeting without ceremony. The property's numbers remain concerning. Mr. Bennett has presented an acquisition offer. Given recent incidents, we are prepared to discuss whether continued operation under current management is viable. Mason folded his hands. This is not personal. Claire tried, but the resort has become a liability. Claire did not answer. She looked at me. I connected my laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared, Timeline of Coordinated Property Sabotage. I spoke from the end of the table. The revenue decline is real. The cause presented to the board is not. The evidence indicates a coordinated attempt to depress valuation through fake reviews, false health narratives, refrigeration sabotage, and attempted employee data theft. Harper leaned forward. Show us. So I did. I showed the review clusters tied to a Bennett-linked marketing shell, the false health complaints from non-guests, the altered supplier manifests, the loading dock footage of Amelia, the maintenance credential used before the refrigeration failure, and the blocked HR archive extraction from Amelia's laptop. Each slide had a timestamp. Each claim had a document, no drama, no adjectives, just proof. Mason's face changed slowly as the room turned against him. This is absurd, he said. You are building a conspiracy from coincidence. Claire opened the folder in front of her. My counsel received the payment trail at 7:15 this morning, she said. The room went still. She placed a document before Harper. 3 payments routed from a Bennett-controlled consulting account to a subcontractor tied to the fake review campaign. A 4th payment went to an expense card used by Amelia Bennett the day before the loading dock access. Mason pushed back from the table. You accessed private financial records? No, Claire said. Your subcontractor provided them after my counsel issued a preservation letter and notified them that their accounts were connected to attempted employee data theft. Mason looked at me. You were supposed to liquidate the asset, he said. I was sent to find the truth, I replied. The liability is you. Harper closed the payment document slowly. Mason, she said, your offer is rejected. You and any representative of your company are barred from this property pending legal review. Mason stood. Security opened the door before he reached it. He left without another word. The board did not celebrate. Real reversals were quieter than that. They asked for the dossier, called counsel, delayed any sale discussion, and approved funding for reputation recovery, cybersecurity hardening, and staff protection. Ms. Morgan, Harper said, your team held the property through a deliberate attack. The board recognizes that. Then recognize the staff first. Claire said, they were the target. Harper nodded. That was the moment Claire won the room on her own terms. 2 hours later, the Botanical Garden Resort sounded different. Guests still rolled luggage over the tile. The fountain still ran. Cicadas still screamed in the wet heat outside, but the air behind the scenes had changed. Staff moved with relief tucked into their shoulders. Ethan stood in the kitchen doorway and nodded once at me, which from him felt like a parade. I spent the afternoon writing the forensic report. Not the kind the board expected. No recommendation for liquidation. No vague language about leadership instability. I wrote what had happened, who had documented it, how staff systems had prevented greater damage, which controls needed immediate funding, and why selling the asset during an active sabotage campaign would reward the attacker. At 4:12 p.m., I sent the report to Harper, Counsel, and Claire. Then I closed the laptop. For the first time since I arrived, the operations office was quiet. The war room table still showed its scars: coffee rings, sticky notes, legal tabs, a forgotten pen cap, one of Ethan's temperature logs, and a clipped gardenia stem browning in a glass of water. It looked imperfect. It looked used. It looked alive. Claire appeared at the doorway with 2 coffees. Black, she said, placing one on the table, because apparently I enable bad habits now. You profile auditors by beverage, I said. This was inevitable. She sat across from me, not at the head of the table. How bad is your report? She asked. For Mason? For me. I turned the laptop so she could see the executive summary. She read the first 2 pages, pausing on the section about staff response, manual controls, and evidence preservation. You did not make yourself the hero, she said. I was not. Outside, the repaired fountain sent a clean pulse of water into the courtyard. No one has ever written a report about this place that made my staff sound like people. They are the reason the property still functions, I said. She closed the laptop gently. What happens now? She asked. Board process, recovery plan, legal action, cybersecurity hardening, reputation rebuild. Boring things, if we are lucky. And you? My audit is complete. She did not answer immediately. The coffee cooled between us. Then she stood. Walk with me to the garden gate before you leave. Part 5. The garden gate looked smaller in the late afternoon. Rainwater clung to the black ironwork. Jasmine hung heavy over the path. The gravel beneath my shoes gave the same quiet crunch as it had on my first day. My duffel bag sat by the operations office door. Not here. Claire had noticed it anyway. Managers like her noticed everything. You are leaving, she said. My report is complete. That sounds like something a man says when he wants the sentence to do the work for him. I looked down at the wet gravel. She was right. The board had asked me to return to corporate headquarters and prepare a full strategy recommendation. My usual life waited. Airport lounge, sterile apartment, another property in another city. Claire reached into her blazer and removed a brass key. Not a room key. Not a private token. An old administrative key tagged Operations Wing. She did not place it in my hand. She held it where I could see the label. The board approved a recovery plan this morning, she said. They want an on-site corporate strategy director for 6 months. HR and legal will route the role properly. No favors, no blurred lines. If you want the work, submit your proposal by Monday. I looked at the key. What is that for? The operations office, she said. The one where we kept the resort alive. The door sticks unless you lift the handle. Facilities has promised to fix it for 3 years and lied twice. A laugh escaped before I could stop it. Her smile answered. That key is not a reward, she said. It is not a shortcut. It is a problem waiting for a person who notices failing hinges and fountain valves. I looked past her to the terrace, where the staff was setting fresh linens beneath the palms. Ethan was arguing with a vendor. A bellman helped an elderly guest around a puddle. Priya crossed the courtyard with a finance folder under one arm and a coffee in the other. The resort had not become perfect overnight. It had become possible. "I'll submit the proposal," I said. Claire nodded once. "Good. And after legal review?" "Coffee," she said. "Public terrace, daylight, your choice." "Black coffee?" "You need better habits." "I am open to operational improvement." This time, her smile stayed. A week later, I returned with a formal proposal, insurance documents, conflict of interest disclosures, and a 6-month recovery plan. The board approved the role through HR and legal. Ethan pretended not to care and left a breakfast sandwich on my operations desk anyway. The first month was not romantic. It was work. We rebuilt the review response system, replaced the refrigeration access protocol, audited vendor credentials, repaired the fountain valve, and added staff data protection to the recovery budget. Mason's offer disappeared. Amelia Bennett's laptop in the payment trail went to legal counsel and appropriate authorities. Bookings did not rebound overnight, but they stopped falling. Then, slowly, they began to climb. One Thursday afternoon, after the first clean month-end report, Claire found me at the garden gate. The cicadas were loud again. The jasmine had bloomed harder after the rain. The gravel path curved toward the lobby, where guests moved beneath the palms with no idea how close the property had come to being carved apart. Claire held 2 paper cups. "Coffee," she said. "Public terrace?" "Daylight. Legal review complete. Filed and archived." I took 1 cup. It was not black. I looked at it suspiciously. She smiled. "Small operational improvement." I tasted it. Still bitter. Less punishing. "Acceptable," I said. Glowing praise from corporate. We walked toward the terrace with professional space between us and something warmer inside it. No one was hiding. No one was performing. The brass key rested in my pocket, not as an invitation, but as responsibility. At the fountain, Claire stopped. The water pulsed steady, every burst clean and even. "First day you noticed the stutter," she said. "Yes. I thought you were looking for reasons to close us." "I was looking for reasons." "And now?" I watched Ethan step out of the kitchen door to correct a delivery driver before the man could unload the wrong crate. I watched a housekeeper laugh with a guest by the orchids. I watched the garden gate stand open for staff, the camera above it catching sunlight instead of threats. "Now I'm looking for what keeps this place alive," I said. Claire looked at the fountain, then at me. "That is better work." "Yes," I said, "it is." The cicadas rose in the canopy, no longer chaotic, just loud and alive. The jasmine smelled sharper in the heat. Gravel shifted beneath our shoes as we crossed the terrace and sat where anyone could see us, with clean paperwork filed, clear terms agreed, and 2 cups of coffee between us. For the first time in years, a broken property did not feel like somewhere I had been sent to end. It felt like somewhere I had chosen to help rebuild. The end.